Welcome back. Cutting that break a little early as we are in game. It's a TVP. In the bottom right is the blue Protoss. It is Harstem. In the top left has the red Terran. It is Twine. Darn it. So, about hour and a half, 2 hours ago, I think, maybe a little less, I mentioned that Harstem's run through the losers, well, not his run, his chances, let's say, of getting out of the losers bracket was quite high, because the people before him were not names I recognized. We had Bassett versus a very French name that I won't try saying again. Then Bassett versus Twine, and now we have Twine taking the 2-0 past Bassett. And then Twine also faced some guy named Iarius. I mean, just names I really don't recognize at all. So, it's not, you know, it's not as easy as saying I don't recognize them so they can't win against Harstem, but let's be real. Most of the time, you haven't heard of someone compared to an established pro like Harstem, even if he hadn't had the best years. Unfortunately, plural, I guess, at this point. It's always been the year of Harstem, but then not so much. You still expect Harstem to win. And I do still expect him to win. I do. But I'm just throwing it out there that maybe we shouldn't be disregarding Twine just because you don't know who he is or his opponents either. There's really not being a true test for him yet, as far as I can see on the bracket. But he might have something to show. To get this far in a tournament, regardless if your bracket's one of the easier ones or not, requires a lot. It's definitely something to be applauded, and something that Harstem should be taken seriously. Now, Harstem might know something more about this guy if he happens to be up there on ladder, which I assume that he is quite high GM. But I don't know. Harstem's gonna start off with Twilight Council. Once he saw that it wasn't a proxy, saw the command center, knew that would be safe. He's gonna get that blink first. Not a surprise there. Whoever wins this is through to WCS Winter Europe. Whoever loses, this was the last chance, so no more chances. We already saw Skillus get through. We're waiting on the Shadone versus Kerr series, and then the bottom series is Hate Me Stefano going on, and then the winner faces Gyarados for the eventual spot. Gyarados also a name I'm not familiar with, so I expect either Stefano or Hate Me to take the victory there. But now that we've summed that up, I will say this is my last series to cast. There will be probably one more series after this, of which I will let the lovely Tempo / Wardy / whoever other casters there are enthrall you with their commentary. Hussein Phoenix sees the intent of a triple medevac drop, and well, there you go. Sorry, triple Widow Mine medevac drop, and there he sees it going along here. Harstem is even going to try and intercept it. It's a bit of a risk, because what if Twine knew he would try to intercept it and then move it somewhere else, but actually takes it back, decides not to. That wasn't a lot of anti-air DPS anyways, so just lets the Adept scout where it is, and then he moves the army back to where it probably is going to, which is the main base. There's no probes at the third, so it's got to be the main and the natural. He sees it, he knows it, he's going to be prepared for it, shouldn't do much damage. You could try to be tricky with this. You could try and even kill the army itself, but it's not really worth it. You should just wait and hold on to it for later. Maybe eventually you'll want that medevac back home defending or with the main army, but that's a long time. And if you have a bunker back at home, then you really don't need the medevac healing. So you can just keep that off to the side even. But he's gonna bring it back home, possibly repair it. What else is he really doing right now? Just getting his macro set up. He's gonna have some stalkers to deal with, but not like a really big complicated ball of them. Not even an observer on the way to get them into the high ground. As do we even have a robo? No, we don't. It went right into double forge. 1-1 and charge on the way. Medevac almost flew into the fire of the stalkers. That would have been awkward. But as you can see, it's not enough stalkers to really combat this. They might have been able to take out the bunker if they purposefully shot at it, but there's so much bio left over that it's not really... What's it really gonna do? So just poke prod. Meanwhile, third base on the way. He sees no tanks. Gonna assume there's gonna be some Widow Mines, of course, but no tanks means that no strong positioning. It is just going to be the back and forth, back and forth. Probably what someone like Harstem is gonna prefer with what he has. As the reason he got sent down into the lower bracket is because of a couple tank pushes. All the upgrades almost done for the Terran. This is when they're really gonna have to strike and strike hard. Twine is currently still on 3 barracks. We'll see what his intent is post that. He's gonna try and take on the Stalkers. Harstem's well aware that the time is coming close to the stim. He's gonna just skedaddle soon. His third base doesn't have his gases because it's all about the charge lots right now. He's not really getting a lot of gas-intensive units, so he can just get a surplus of charge lots plus a couple of immortals, and you can still afford 2-2 upgrades. His 4 gases is still enough. Widow Mine drop is set up, but Harstem knows about it. Saw with the pylons over here. He's still trying to tango here. I'm surprised by that, but it seems to be going well for him. Even though the Stalkers are getting low, they are getting a lot of Marines chipped off here. And this is not a situation where low Stalkers makes or breaks the defense. It's all about the charge lots now. So 1-1 done compared to just the 1. Twine does have about 10 army supply lead, but defense advantage. Just the value of Harstem units probably means he'll take this. Really nice Lucent Phoenix. Gonna force the Widow Mines to be microed, so he's able to take out at least one, but not the other one. A decent split, though. Didn't have blink, right? So he split them. Means that not many Stalkers actually took their lives, and not a lot of splash damage was done, because that's what the real kicker is. 3 Stalkers die, okay, so what? But then suddenly you also splash your Immortal, 4 Sentries, and 5 Zealots. That's a lot of damage. That he has 4 Sentries, but you get the point. Another Immortal is on the way. 2-2 has begun, and Twine was ready to get out of there, but the AI of it is a little awkward. His 3rd CC is being completed on location, so there is a macro game post this push. But Twine would love for it to do a little bit more damage, grab a few more important units. The Sentries, the Immortal, charge lots at this point, just as long as you're not losing all of them, are kind of there to die. They're going to do their damage, then they're going to die, but at least they did something, and you can remake them pretty quickly. Everything else, even the Stalkers, oopsie daisy, oopsie whoopsie, okay. Even the Stalkers being a little more expensive, and Twine not able to really dig into that count, means that he has a decent army supply himself. In fact, his worker count looks quite decent too. It's 60 versus 56. But Harstem has been comfortable on this count for a while. I don't think that's so much a sign of good things as it is just expected. Harstem should be getting to a 4th base soon as well. Although which one he's taking, I'm not quite sure. He's got pylons everywhere to scout instead of building any observers. Liberator is found easy peasy. Although this is where the 2nd Liberator comes in. Did I say Observer or Liberator? You guys know that Liberator. 2nd Liberator does a lot of damage. Whoa, hey, hold on, hold on. Might even get the Stalker. Is gonna get the Stalker. That was a lot of damage to be done. Now, worse things could have happened there. Harstem could have taken more probe damage, but I mean more like he could have tried pulling more Stalkers to defend that and then not been in position to defend against this. So it's more important that he defends against this. Although he will need to pull probes over here. Twine, shockingly, not using what would have been 4 Liberators to attack, but rather to defend, or harass, sorry, is kind of working out here. They're even getting some Stalkers. God, they almost get that last one. They do get that last one. But how is the rest of the army looking? Harstem takes the fight and will take the fight. He also is finally getting some return worker damage as Zealots come forward, I think from just the left side of the map. I don't know if they came with a War Prism. But 23 workers were killed by Twine with all that harassment. Only 10 so far. Twine was already pulling back his army too, so it's not like this is a huge relief for the Protoss or a huge problem for the Terran. A couple last minute force fields, take out a few more Marauders. Zealots finally cleaned up, and that did disrupt. That disrupted both of them. The Liberators interrupted Harstem's economy, and the Zealots interrupted Twine's. I feel like Twine's ultimately got the better end of literal workers killed, but that doesn't mean he gets the better end of the game. I could literally check it, yeah. So like doubling that of the unit who's killed, but Harstem was on a 3rd base for so much longer with a comfortable probe count, not getting the gases, you know, when didn't need them. So really quite balanced economy here for a Protoss. Twine now getting back up to his perfectly saturated economy, also getting a 4 CC, getting a 2nd starport. I feel like a 2nd starport might be a little bit late, and I'm a little worried about that. I'd have to rewatch the game to see exactly when he could have made it, but that's a little worrying. Harstem's not pushing out, so it's not worrying unless it's actually something's happening, right? This Liberator Harassment was trying to be clever by being on the high grounds. Or the, I guess, high ground of the base you would expect. Whatever. Doesn't really work out. Harstem had units there, so be it. Sometimes they don't have any structures on the high ground, so they can't blink up to it, even in their own main base. Anyways, we're now getting to that point, too. Because the second starport wasn't, like, the quickest it could be, let's call it that, right? We don't have a ton of Liberators, because he's sacrificed now 5 of them, at least. Well, you know, imagine if that's 8 Liberators, that's a very big difference. But we do have a very powerful bio army. Twine, I don't know much about him, but his macro is pretty good. His reads on TVP are good. It's just a matter of can he really deliver when it comes later and later to PvT. When storms start operating here, when you start getting Dark Shrine harassment done, when 3-3 is done for the Protoss, which is just finished up here, that's the real rub of the matchup for a lot of Terran players. They might have some confidence until this point, but then this point hits and they're like, oh, well, what the heck do I do? Guardian Shield is available, but notice the lack of storms. No energy-based units except those sentries. That's a lot of bio to deal with without Splash, but oh, I said without Splash, the Lucent Phoenix are very effective. So much of the Terran army got splashed by those. Widow Mines, please. And then the Liberators did not have a long life there as the Stalkers instantly took them out. So many of these units are so low, but they are trading out with whatever's left over while they can. So the more Stalkers went down than maybe Harstem was hoping for. Ultimately, it ends up being a big win for Harstem because look at this. Look what's happening here. War Prism came into the left side through the corner. No missile turrets. No, there were missile turrets. It just simply bypassed them. And they are raining havoc. That is going to be it. Even if it wasn't with the War Prism harassment, Harstem probably has more army to follow through on the front lines regardless. Twine not taking the best fight that he could. Those damn Widow Mines severely hurt his army. They were as good as a storm. Sickening. Terran Widow Mines sicken me. GG. Harstem takes game number 1, but now we have a clearer idea of how Twine plays, and that was rather good. Thank you, Chimney Pop, for the Twitch Prime sub. I forgot if I already said it or not. Y'all, look at you. Look at the Palo. He's so cute. What time would I go live for the NA qualifiers? I would start them and then end early if I do them at all. Do you ever see yourself in a mirror on a camera and realize that you're starting to look like a mature, responsible adult? And other times you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I still dress like a 14-year-old. Yep. Second game on Port Alexander. We got everyone in here. Bottom half of the bracket's still not updated. In the bottom right. Taking game number 1. It is the red Protoss, Harstem. In the top left, As the blue Terran, it is Twine. That's an odd name. Not that Harstem makes much sense, but the more you say it, the more it sounds like a real name, I guess. But Twine is like... You tore something in twine. I don't think it's actually a word, but still. Weird name. Strong thread or string? Oh, that's right. That's what I should have thought of first. Oh, it's also a verb? Huh. So it's a strong thread consisting of 2 or more strands of hemp, cotton, or nylon. Very important, guys. And we also have a verb, cause to wind or spiral around something. Oh, okay, gotcha. She twined her arms around his neck. That sounds malicious. She twined her arms around his neck? Okay. Bit of that fake proxy going on here. Still going to a 1-base build, though, and that's probably most important. But it's nice to find as the Protoss player, even if you're like, you're not actually proxying me. Like, stop that. It's still hiding what could be a starport, for instance, over there. Because even though the probe scouts the factory timing rather well, if it scouts at all, it doesn't usually get to scout the starport. Unless the plan is to put it down here and the probe scouts down here. But Harstem, playing very odd for a Protoss player, doesn't scout until way later. He does scout what could have been one possible proxy. That is not all possible proxies, and we know that's not the fake proxy scout either. Now, for what it is, this is a perfectly fine probe scout, so it doesn't end up mattering that much. And he's even going to be able to get into the main base, it looks like, unless this platypus raised. It's not, as the Reaper was being focused on primarily. Poor Alexander, a very bad Reaper map, and you see Harstem even trying to build against that. So once the Reaper is out of the main and natural, he's not getting back in. Or shouldn't, anyways. This probe gets a full scout, sees that there... If he didn't see the command center itself, he would have been able to see probably that there's not 3 out of 3 in both gases. And this is a good start for Harstem. He didn't get bamboozled, because he didn't scout at all. And he did get a scout when he needed it, post the almost bamboozle. Disruptors do friendly fire other Protoss units, but for some reason they don't friendly fire each other. I mean, I think that guy's bringing up the whole imbalanced amount of friendly fire that Terran has, and there's really no disagreeing with it, guys. Like, Terran has more horrendous friendly fire than any other race. But sometimes my charge slots get stormed because they go fast. Oh, shut up. No. Sometimes my Widow Mines are delicately positioned and I make sure to micro my army behind them and then they still get splashed on the top of my army anyways. Hey, try that on the precise. Anyways, so that Reaper did do its job in terms of scouting, although it almost didn't. It saw the Stargate, saw what's producing from the Stargate. It is going to be an Oracle, followed by another Oracle. We've seen kind of a resurgence, it looked like, for a while there from some of the Protoss in these qualifiers. That there was the 3, 4, even 5 Oracle shenanigans. And yet, I say that, none of them had tried to go for the stim. They both... The 2 or 3 Protosses that I saw go for like 4 or 5 Oracles. One was desperate, the other 2 end up trying to go for the army/mineral lines. And I was like, oh, I thought the whole idea was that they killed stim. But anyways. 2 Oracles into a Phoenix, much more normal stuff. Viking to combat that, so the Oracle doesn't do a whole lot. Not going to bother with missile turrets. That will leave him open if he does a tank push, but only if he wanted to do a tank push. Generally, with Stargate openers, you do expect a fast 3rd base, but then you also expect Phoenix. And, you know, it's possible they only go for 1 Phoenix. Maybe it's a bit of a I know that he knows that I know thing. 1 Phoenix, you can do the tank push. If you have 2 tanks and Liberator, whatever. More than 1 Phoenix, and you're getting bopped, probably. 3 in Phoenix, pick up your tank, your Cyclone, and take care of your Liberator. Yeah. Oracles can also take care of tanks, by the way. Given the opportunity. Yeah, not gonna... It could potentially not be pretty. Now, Twine unsieges his tank as if he plans on doing an attack, and I guess he will. Second tank's on the way, then he swaps off something that is revealed by Revelation. I just don't know how serious he really is about this, because Harstem sees it, and is, he was already building a third Phoenix. That should be enough. I pointed out the 3 units you could take on. I guess Liberator aside, you just take out the 2 tanks and a Cyclone. Okay, there's a 4th Phoenix. You also meet them halfway before the tanks are even sieged, and, yeah. Now, the Oracles were not microed back, so he does lose them. The Adept shaded in on top of the army, though, and took care of all the Marines and the tanks. Liberator finally taken care of, and that is a complete cleanup. Maybe the only critique could be because, you know, he could have saved 1 Oracle, I guess. But I feel like critiquing it's not necessary because that was ultimately a win for Harstem, like a big win for Harstem. And Twine's gonna go, okay, yeah, probably shouldn't have done that. If there's 1 Phoenix, it is a bit different, but even then, it's like, eh. Can't get bamboozled if you don't scout in the first place. Exactly. Now, the counter won't look so strong because Phoenix aren't particularly good at taking care of bunkers. Who'da thunk it? And none of these units on the ground are either, really. They're upgraded. But they are great at scouting and at taking care of SCVs. And hey, even finding a Raven here and ending up surviving is fantastic news for Protoss fans out there. They might be injured, but they could still come in and take out a very important unit through another push. Things are desperate for Twine. He knows he did bad with the push. And while he's happily didn't just simply die right there because his 2 bunkers finished, he shouldn't be feeling that happy about this game. We have a bit of a change up from Harstem than what we've been seeing almost every other game. Those Adepts shading through were not just a one-time thing. He is actually going into Resonant Glaives with +1 attack, not armor, not blink. And that is going to be a composition that I doubt Twine's going to be expecting. And if we really draw back on our collective StarCraft 2 memories, right, we can think about when Resonant Glaives was a very popular build. If you hit before that was done with +1, then you're kind of okay to good to go. If you don't hit it and you play defensive, you just try and kill a Warp Prism, make sure they don't kill your SCVs, okay, you're fine, you're good to go. If you hit them when they have +1 and Resonant Glaives and a solid amount of Adepts as well, right, like 16 or so, you have to stay out of their shades or you are dead. You also want Widow Mines, but you also want to make sure that Widow Mines don't splash on you like they did last game. So the way you engage this army is very different, even if the timings might be doable or not something you're actually shooting for, whatever. The way you engage against this army is going to be something that Twine might not be expecting to do. He's probably going to be expecting charge lots instead of a shade. He's going to be like, what the hell? It's a lot of shades. Behind this, by the way, if Twine sees this and says, you know what, I can't take on that army quite yet, which a lot of times is the best option. You see that many Adepts, you figure you'll time them out. You'll say, I'll get better upgrades, I'll get more army, and then eventually your Adept composition will get worse and worse. That would happen, remember? What Harstem's following up with makes his army good again, even if it's mostly Adepts. He's going into Blink, +1 armor, and most importantly, he's going into a robotic space. So Twine sees this and says, I'll play the Defender's path to this, and he does have his 3rd CC on the way. He's not going for an attack. Then he is now going to have to hit that potential attack before Colossus have grown in number. Or he really is just going to stay pinned back forever until he has like 8 or 10 Liberators. There's still choices here, and I'm glad to see that he didn't just like throw away an army in an attempt to find a weak spot of Harstem, thinking that, oh, he thinks he's so in the lead, I'll hit him when he's overconfident, because it would not have worked. But there's all the options presented. It's still not a great game for Twine, whose best option probably is just to defend, get Liberators, and Ghost as well. But because it's Colossus, not Charge Lot, High Templar, not Disruptors. Oh my god, a War Prism gets in the main base. Oh no, just Adepts get in the main base, and the Natural. Oh no, it's a War Prism as well. Well, the point is, everything's everywhere. And before I continue talking about the hypotheticals, you need to talk about the here. Phoenix, oh, okay, 1 Oracle does go down, but they did try to find an opening at the 3rd base. They did not find it. However, everywhere else went to shit. SCVs were killed, pulled off the mineral lines. How many SCVs were killed? Oh, 22. And things are not still cleaned up. So Twine has these 2 Liberators, not even Medevacs, he has 2 Liberators to go for some harassment. It's not going to do nearly as much. The War Prism lives with a couple of Adepts still left over. And if Twine was going to go for an attack, it's not going to work now. There's way too many Colossus. His reduction has been entirely stalled out here. He needs to get to a super high Liberator count because 6 or 7 is not quite gonna cut it. Quite cut. It's hard. Because Colossus would have too much damage before the Liberators killed him. You need an extremely high number of Liberators, or you need them to have their upgrades. Speaking of Liberators, you suck. Doesn't kill the War Prism. Well, this attack might not be so bad, actually, with the concave. Twine's, in fact, getting that concave. The Liberator is a bit bold, sieging up literally on top of the Protoss army, but here's where things start to look bad. Is the 3 Colossus don't take any damage whatsoever. No Vikings, no Marauders on top of them, no Liberators getting into range of them. They just continually hammer down on the Marauders. So initially it goes, you know, it's like optimistic, and then quickly you realize, oh, I'm still not dealing with the Colossus, and they're still killing me. So if you haven't killed literally the rest of the entire army, the Colossus are going to reign supreme. And that's exactly what's happening. Most of the fodder, right, what is usually Zealots, but in this case is Adepts, is gone. In fact, with these Widow Mines, it is officially gone. But there's still 4 Colossus left over. EMP's not looking as helpful as they really should. SCs are pulled off the line. There's a DTs actually attacking the main base while this is going on, and Twine is not going to tap out because it's the last possible chance to get into WCS Winter EU, but it's not going to be his chance. GG. Good luck. Harstem takes the 2-0.